Welcome back to the PI show. Harry Nowicki is my name. I'm here with Martin Smith. We're talking about, before the break, motor car accidents and all the issues that arise out of motor car accidents. There's hundreds and hundreds of issues that arise. But before the break, just discussing, I think it's interesting, is the issue about illegal activities, and particularly drugs, and drugs involved in motor car accidents. TAC are now running a campaign on the airwaves about drugs and driving. So the situation, drugs and driving, is that if you are with alcohol and drugs, which are directly related to a motor car accident, you lose some benefits.
Yes.
But not all benefits.
No. In relation to your loss of wages, there is a sliding scale, as depending on your alcohol reading, as to if you're stone sober, 0-0, obviously you get your 100% of what your entitlement is. If you've got a reading between 0.05 and 0.1, 0.12 and 0.15, for example, and then over 0.24, it reduces down till you lose your loss of earnings entitlement.
So so you lose that benefit, but you still get retain medical expenses.
Yes.
And you still retain the what's called the no-fault impairment benefit, a lump sum for injuries that arise.
That is if you can. The exception to that is if you can prove that the alcohol had nothing to do with the transport accident. For example, if you were stationary at a red light, and let's just say you had an alcohol reading of higher than the limit, and some person ignored the stationary car and just ran into the back of you and pushed you into a pole, you could, I think, in those circumstances, have a chance of saying the alcohol had nothing to do with with the negligence in that accident, and you'd have to prove that. It's almost a reverse onus.
Yeah. So if you can demonstrate the drugs or alcohol had nothing to do with the accident, then you should keep, I don't know, loss of earnings.
You may continue with your entitlements.
Entitlements, but in those situations, you still have to lodge the claim.
Correct.
And then probably see a lawyer about what benefits you're entitled to.
Yep.
And then last week I think we were discussing about what is a transport accident involving motor cars and motor vehicles. And motor vehicles are separate from motor cars. Yes. So motor cars, we know what a motor car is, but motor vehicles covers really quite a broad range. I think
it's interesting. The one shoe doesn't fit all. There are cases where, for example, a fellow was riding a dirt bike inside the boundary fence of the Tullamarine Airport. And he would think that's inside Commonwealth land, that's private property, it's an unregistered dirt bike, but he'd ridden it on the highway to get there. He'd left his house obviously somewhere near, call it Gladstone Park, he'd ridden along the highway, it was used on the highway, and that area was regularly used by dirt bikes, so it became public land used by motor vehicles. Other ones are, for example, a bulldozer. Why would a bulldozer be a motor vehicle? Well, when you think about it, when they push a highway into a forest coupe, the way they push the highway in for the logging trucks or the four-wheel drives is with a bulldozer. And then the bulldozer knocked over a tree which hit a four-wheel drive and injured somebody. That became a transport accident because it was a motor vehicle. It was used on the highway.
So the bulldozer in effect caused an injury to someone.
Yes.
And TAC then stepped in and covered the driver of the bulldozer who we think was at fault.
Other vehicles which spring to mind, forklifts. We see them every day in a commercial setting, every day in an industrial atmosphere, every day in the workplace. However, once they go past that fence line, as we discussed last week, the highway is the footpath, it's not just the bitumen, it's the road-related area. Once they start to get out of that protected area inside a factory, they may well become motor vehicles. You've got tractors in a farm environment, you've got ATV quad bikes in a farm environment, you've got dirt bikes in a farm environment, you've got bulldozers, as we said, and you've got off-road machinery. Depending on what they're doing, again, lodge...
And where they are.
Correct.
So...
Lodge the claim and then seek advice.
So that may be. And the legislation, again, just excludes motorsports and activities involved in motorsports, so Calder, the Grand Prix, they're all excluded. So that includes spectators who are injured We had a terrible accident, I think, the Grand Prix a number of years ago. A tyre came off, killed someone, injured spectators. They weren't covered by TAC because the motor vehicle wasn't registered in effect.
Yes, and it actually goes to the extent of it is not just the race itself, it is in a test or preparation for an organised motor vehicle race or speed trial. If you're the driver or passenger of such a vehicle, if you're a spectator of the race trial or test, if you're an official and organiser, if you're assisting in any way holding the race trial or test, or you're assisting the competitors in the race. So you might be a pit, you might be a mechanic or a pit worker. All of those people, that's a direct exclusion.
Exclusion by TSC. So there'd be other insurance, you'd hope, or you'd think,
Well,
almost certainly.
They could get a permit from TAC. They could go to TAC and seek a permit for certain things. But
special events.
Yeah, but not for that. No, I don't believe that one would be covered.
No.
But then go to the preparatory behaviour before the Melbourne Grand Prix. This year you see the Ferraris going along Lygon Street, you see them going up to King Lake. That's certainly not a race, it's certainly not a speed trial. I just wonder whether those vehicles were covered by TAC for third-party insurance,
So
where they actually got a permit.
So the Ferraris in Lygon Street, possibly if they hit a if they hit a pedestrian, something went wrong. Possibly it's a TAC claim,
Yes.
and they might be covered under
Correct.
TAC.
That's an example,
Yes,
of something that's bizarre, something that's unusual, but it may, in actual, fit under the scheme.
Yep, and as I say, hit by pedestrian hit by a Ferrari, probably put in a claim to TAC. TAC will tell you within probably 28 days
Yes.
whether they're covered or not.
Or they seek further information. Yes.
Further information, and then probably see a lawyer to sort of work out what your entitlements are.
Correct.
So well, I don't think you could sue Mark Webber. He's not a Ferrari driver. He drives for
He's
Red Bull
Bull,
or something. Yeah. So yeah, he's excluded. And again, the variety of benefits you get from TAC. Someone who's injured in Victoria but parents are interstate.
Yes.
The TAC will pay for parents to fly into Victoria.
Yes, I believe they've got a special house. It's like a Ronald McDonald house that they can come and stay at while they visit. They'll put them up with some accommodation. They'll bring them down, obviously, to see the severely injured person, for example.
Someone's in a hospital.
In a hospital,
yeah.
yes. And they'll also, of course, repatriate those people back to where they've got to go back to interstate after they've been through a rehabilitation and convalescence period.
So they pay for close family to fly from interstate, stay in Melbourne,
yes,
and visit people who are seriously injured.
They've actually contributed to people coming from overseas as well.
From overseas as well, have they? Yeah. So, look, we'll come back to other benefits that are payable by the TAC, but there's a variety of situations, and we'll have a short break and come back after the break.
Thank you.